The Great Hall on Viridian Prime had never seen such panic. 7 different alien species sat around the crystal table, their voices mixing into a chorus of fear and anger. The room smelled of ozone and fear sweat from creatures who thought they ruled the galaxy. Ambassador Krelthak stood tall, his crystalline body catching the light from 3 suns that shone through the massive windows. His voice rang clear as he spoke to the council. The humans have crossed the line. They have built colonies on 3 worlds that belong to us. The other aliens shifted in their seats. Some had tentacles that writhed with worry. Others had scales that changed color when they felt scared. All of them had lived peaceful lives for thousands of years. War was something they read about in old books. These Deathworlders think they can take what they want, Krelthak continued. His crystal face showed no emotion, but his voice carried disgust. They come from a world so dangerous that it breeds monsters. Every creature on their planet tries to kill every other creature. They call this normal. High Chancellor Vextar, who looked like a giant purple octopus with golden eyes, waved his tentacles for silence. Tell us more about these humans. What makes them so dangerous? Krelthak activated a hologram that showed Earth floating in space. The blue and green world looked peaceful from far away. This is their home. They call it Earth. Our scientists have studied it for 50 years. The gravity is twice what most species can handle. The weather tries to kill everything with storms, floods, and ice. Poisonous plants grow everywhere, deadly animals hunt in packs. The hologram changed to show images of Earth's creatures, lions chasing zebras, sharks with rows of sharp teeth, spiders bigger than alien hands, snakes that could kill with one bite. But the worst part, Krelthak said, is that humans are the top predator on this world. They hunted everything else until they ruled the entire planet. Then they started hunting each other. A small, furry alien named Council Member Riltok squeaked in fear. They hunt their own species? For thousands of years, Krelthak confirmed. They call it war. They seem to enjoy it. Our behavioral experts cannot understand why a species would fight itself so much and still survive. Chancellor Vextar's golden eyes grew darker. How many of them are there? 8 billion on their Opry homeworld. Another 2 million spread across 12 colony worlds. They reproduce fast and adapt to any environment. In just 50 years, they went from barely leaving their planet to building cities on worlds that would kill most species in minutes. The council chamber fell silent. Outside, the peaceful sounds of Viridian Prime continued. Hover cars moved quietly through clean streets. Citizens worked in their gardens or visited art galleries. War was something that happened to other people in other times. What do they want? Asked another council member. Everything, Krelthak answered. They explore every system they can reach. They build colonies on worlds we marked as too dangerous to settle. They mine asteroids in space that belongs to the Confederation. They act like the galaxy is empty except for them. Far away, in a completely different part of space, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched his crew work. The research vessel New Horizon was not built for fighting. It was built for exploring and learning. Jake was 35 years old, with brown hair and kind eyes. He had spent his whole adult life traveling between stars. Captain, we found something interesting on the 3rd planet, called Lisa Carter from the pilot seat. She was a small woman with red hair who could fly anything with engines. The surface has metals we have never seen before. Jake walked over to look at her screens. Any signs of life? Nothing intelligent, answered Danny Sullivan from the engineering station. He was tall and thin, with hands that could fix any machine. Some plants and small animals. Looks safe for a research team. Dr. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her science station. She studied alien life forms and had discovered 3 new species in the past year. The ecosystem is stable. We could set up a small base camp without disturbing the local life. Jake nodded. This was exactly the kind of work he loved, finding new worlds, learning about different forms of life, and maybe helping humanity expand peacefully into the galaxy. He had no idea that alien eyes watched his ship from hidden sensors. Back on Viridian Prime, Chancellor Vextar made his decision. These humans are a plague that will spread across the galaxy if we do not stop them now. They will destroy everything peaceful and beautiful about our civilization. What do you propose? Asked Krelthok. War, Vextar said simply. Complete. War. We destroy their colonies, blockade their homeworld, and force them to stay on their death world where they belong. Some council members looked shocked. Others nodded in agreement. Real Talk squeaked again. But we have never fought a war against anyone. We do not know how. We have General Zixnall, Vextar replied. He has studied military history for 300 years. He understands warfare better than any being in the Confederation. General Zixnall entered the council chamber as if summoned by his name. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. His uniform was perfect, and his weapons were polished but had never been used in real combat. You called for me, Chancellor? Zixnall asked. How quickly can you assemble a war fleet? The general thought for a moment. 200 ships within 10 days, another 300 within a month. Our technology is far superior to human equipment. Our weapons are more precise. Our ships are faster. This should be a simple extermination mission. Excellent, Vexitar said. Prepare the fleet. Send an ultimatum to the humans first. Give them one chance to withdraw from all contested space and confine themselves to their home system. If they refuse, destroy them all. The council voted. 6 species agreed to war. Only Real Talk's people voted against it, and they were too small to matter. 3 days later, the message reached Earth. Admiral Kate Phillips sat in her office at United Defense Command reading the alien ultimatum on her screen. She was 50 years old with gray hair and scars from her time as a fighter pilot. She had spent 30 years preparing for the day when humanity might meet hostile aliens. The message was simple and arrogant. Humans will withdraw from all space beyond your home system within 30 days. You will never again leave the planet. You call Earth. If you refuse, the Zelkan Confederation will destroy every human colony and blockade your world until your species dies out. This is your only warning. Kate smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just been challenged by prey that did not understand what it was dealing with. She pressed a button on her desk. Get me President Martinez. Tell him we just received our first declaration of war from aliens. And get me General Harrison. It looks like humanity is about to teach the galaxy why declaring war on Deathworlders never ends well. Captain Roy Bennett was having coffee when his ship died around him. The Liberty Bell was a cargo hauler, not a warship. Roy had been flying supply runs between human colonies for 8 years without ever seeing trouble bigger than space pirates. Daiku. Ship carried medical supplies to the new settlement on Kepler 442b. Roy's crew of 6 included his wife Susan, who worked as the ship's doctor. Their twin sons, age 16, helped with cargo loading. It was supposed to be a family business in a peaceful galaxy. Captain, we have unknown ships approaching, called Tom Wilson from the sensor station. He was barely 20 years old and had joined the crew fresh out of Space Academy. 3 vessels, design unknown, they're big. Roy set down his coffee and walked to the bridge. Through the front window, he could see distant lights moving against the stars. Any response to our greeting signals? Nothing, sir, Tom replied, but they're scanning us with some kind of beam. It feels different from normal sensor sweeps. Susan Bennett joined her husband on the bridge. She was a small woman with blonde hair and steady hands that had saved many lives in emergency surgeries. Should I prepare the medical bay? She asked quietly. Roy almost said no. The Liberty Bell had peaceful contact protocols loaded into every system. First contact with alien species was supposed to be handled by diplomats and scientists, not cargo pilots. But something felt wrong about these ships. Send the standard first contact message, Roy ordered. All languages, all frequencies. Tell them we come in peace and want to establish friendly relations. Tom's fingers moved over his controls. Broadcasting now, Captain. The response came 30 seconds later. 3 beams of brilliant energy struck the Liberty Bell at the same time. The ship's shields lasted exactly 4 seconds before failing. The hull began to melt. Emergency beacon activated, Tom shouted over the sound of alarms. Distress signal sent to all human colonies and Earth. Roy grabbed Susan's hand as their ship broke apart around them. Their last thought was confusion. Why would anyone attack a peaceful cargo ship? What had humanity done to deserve this? The three alien warships, commanded by General Zixnall himself, watched the human vessel die. The general stood on his bridge with satisfaction. His first victory against the Deathworlders had been easy and clean. "Scan for survivors," Zixnall ordered. "None detected, General," replied his sensor officer. The human ship was completely destroyed. "Excellent. Send word to the Chancellor. The humans die as easily as any other species. This war will be over in days." But Zixnall had made his first mistake. He did not understand human emergency beacons. The Liberty Bell's final transmission did not just report an attack, it recorded everything. Every detail about the alien ships, their weapons, their positions, and their tactics went racing toward human space at faster than light speed. On Earth, Admiral Kate Phillips received the transmission in her office at 3 in the AudioBook morning. She had not slept since the alien ultimatum arrived. She expected the war to start, but she had hoped for more time to prepare. The recording showed everything. Captain Bennett's family trying to make peaceful contact. The alien ships attacking without warning. The murder of innocent civilians who had never hurt anyone. Kate played the recording again and again. Each time her anger grew colder and more focused. She had spent her career preparing for war, but she had never expected to fight an enemy that killed children for no reason. "Get me President Martinez," she told her aide. "Wake him up. Then contact every military commander in the solar system. Full war alert as of now." An hour later, Kate stood in the war room deep under the Pentagon. President Martinez looked tired but determined. General Harrison, the head of ground forces, studied tactical displays with grim concentration. "How bad is it?" the president asked. "They have at least 200 warships," Kate replied. "Our intelligence estimates suggest they can build more quickly than we can. We have 60 combat-ready ships and maybe 100 civilian vessels we can convert to military use. Can we win?" Martinez asked the question every human leader was thinking. Kate smiled that same predator smile from 3 days earlier. "Mr. President, they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They could have asked us to leave, they could have negotiated. Instead, they murdered a family that was carrying medicine to sick colonists." "That does not answer my question, Admiral." "Sir, we're going to do more than win. We're going to teach the galaxy what happens when you declare war on Deathworlders." The news reached Mars Colony 6 hours later. Governor Pete Andrews called an emergency meeting of the Colonial Council. 80,000 people lived on Mars, including families with small children and elderly people who had come to retire in lower gravity. "Earth Command is ordering evacuation," Pete announced to the packed auditorium. "Transport ships are coming to take everyone back to Earth within the next 2 weeks." The crowd exploded in angry voices. Sarah Martinez, who ran the largest mining operation on Mars, stood up. "This is our home. We built this place with our own hands. We're not running away from some aliens who never even talked to us first. The Confederation has superior numbers and technology," Pete replied. "Earth Command thinks we cannot defend the colonies." "Earth Command is wrong," called out Dr. Kevin Barnes from the back of the room. He was the chief engineer for the Mars Mining Consortium. "We have industrial equipment that can be turned into weapons. We have miners who know every tunnel and cave on this planet. We have people who chose to live on a frontier world because they're not afraid of danger." The vote was not even close. 78,000 colonists voted to stay and fight. Only 2,000 chose evacuation, mostly families with very young children. That same day, similar votes happened on 11 other human colonies. The results were always the same. Humans did not run from fights, even when the odds seemed impossible. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker received the war alert at Luna Base, Earth's moon. His defensive fleet consisted of 12 patrol boats and 3 destroyers. Through his long-range sensors, he could see alien ships gathering at the edge of the solar system. "How many?" asked his second-in-command, Major Linda Hayes. "At least 50 heading our way," Steve replied. "Probably more behind them." Linda checked her weapons systems one more time. Orders from Earth Command? Hold the line. Make them pay for every mile of space. Understood, sir. Should I prepare ramming courses? Steve looked at her with surprise. Ramming attacks were considered suicide tactics by most military forces, but Linda Hayes had grown up on a world where people routinely risked their lives for dangerous jobs like deep-sea fishing and mountain rescue. Prepare ramming courses, Steve confirmed. If we're going to die, we'll take as many of them with us as possible. The alien fleet moved closer to Earth. General Zixanal expected the humans to surrender when they saw how outnumbered they were. Every other species in galactic history had done exactly that. But as his ships approached Luna Base, Zixanal received a transmission that confused him. It came from Admiral Phillips on Earth. General Zixanal, you made a mistake. You could have asked us to leave your territory. You could have negotiated a peaceful solution. Instead, you murdered innocent civilians. Now you're going to learn why declaring war on Deathworlders never ends well. The transmission ended, and Zixanal stared at his communication screen. In 300 years of military study, he had never encountered an enemy that threatened him after seeing how badly outnumbered they were. General, his sensor officer called out, the human ships are not retreating. They're moving to attack positions. Zixanal looked at his tactical display with growing confusion. 15 human ships were arranging themselves in a defensive line against 50 alien warships. It made no tactical sense. Are they surrendering? He asked. No, sir. They're charging weapons and locking targeting systems on our ships. For the first time in his long military career, General Zixanal felt something he had only read about in historical accounts of ancient wars. He felt afraid. The Battle of Luna began when 50 alien warships met 15 human defenders in the space between Earth and its moon. General Zixanal expected the fight to last minutes. Instead, it lasted 6 hours and changed everything he thought he knew about warfare. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker watched the enemy ships approach on his sensors. Each alien vessel was twice the size of his largest destroyer. Their weapons glowed with power that could cut through human shields like paper. By every rule of space combat, this should be a massacre. All ships, this is Parker, he broadcast to his small fleet. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to make them remember why they should have left us alone. Major Linda Hayes piloted her destroyer Valiant toward the center of the alien formation. Her weapons officer was a young man named Bobby Chen who had joined the Navy to pay for college. Her engineer was an older woman named Carol Davis who had worked on spaceships for 20 years. Bobby, forget about precision targeting, Linda ordered. Load every missile we have and set them for maximum blast radius. Carol, how long until our reactor overloads if I push it past safety limits? About 10 minutes, ma'am, Carol replied without hesitation. Should I start the overload sequence? Linda smiled. On any civilized world, deliberately overloading a ship's reactor was considered insane. But humans had been doing insane things to win fights for thousands of years. Not yet. Wait until we're close enough to hurt them. The alien ships opened. Fire first. Beams of pure energy lanced through space, striking human vessels with surgical precision. 2 patrol boats died instantly, their crews vaporized before they could scream. But the surviving human ships did not retreat. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the alien fleet. General Zixanal watched his tactical display with growing confusion. Why are they not running? He asked his tactical officer. Unknown, sir. They appear to be attempting ramming attacks. Impossible. No species commits suicide in space combat. Retreating makes more tactical sense. But humans had never been particularly interested in what made tactical sense to other species. Commander Parker's flagship, the Luna's Pride, charged straight at Zixanal's command ship. Human weapons hammered the alien vessel's shields while return fire melted armor plating from the human destroyer. Sir, we've lost main engines and life support is failing, reported his damage control officer. Good, Parker replied. That means we're close enough. He activated the ship's self-destruct sequence and aimed the Luna's Pride at the alien ship's weapons array. The explosion took out half of Zixanal's firepower and killed 30 human crew members who sang their national anthem as they died. Major Hayes saw Parker's sacrifice and knew her turn had come. The Valiant was burning and losing atmosphere, but her reactor still worked perfectly. "Carol, start the overload now," she ordered. "Overload initiated, ma'am. We have 8 minutes." Linda pushed her ship's engines beyond their design limits, racing toward the largest alien vessel in the formation. Enemy fire tore through her hull, killing Bobby Chen at his weapons station and wounding half her crew. "Linda, we can still escape." "In the life pods," Carol called out as explosions rocked the ship. "No," Linda replied. "We're going to ram their docking bay and take their command center with us." The Valiant smashed into the alien ship's side at full speed. Linda Hayes died with her hands on the controls, steering her ship's exploding reactor into the heart of the enemy vessel. The alien command ship broke in half and drifted dead in space. General Zixnall found himself floating in an escape pod, watching his fleet fight an enemy that defied everything he understood about warfare. Human ships exploded themselves to damage alien vessels. Human pilots flew damaged fighters directly into alien weapon systems. Human crews kept fighting even when their ships were falling apart around them. In 15 minutes of combat, Zixnall lost 12 ships to an enemy force that should have been destroyed in seconds. Worse, the surviving human ships were sending detailed battle reports back to Earth, sharing everything they learned about alien weapons and tactics. "Retreat," Zixnall ordered what remained of his fleet. "Fall back and regroup." But the lesson had already begun. On Earth, Dr. Kevin Wright's team was studying the battle data with intense focus. Kevin was a small, quiet man who had spent his career designing peaceful technologies. Now he was learning to build weapons of war. Their energy. "Weapons are incredibly precise," he explained to Admiral Phillips. "But precision is also a weakness. They're designed for surgical strikes, not the kind of massive damage we use." "What do you recommend?" Phillips asked. "We build weapons that work like controlled explosions instead of laser scalpels. Their ships can't handle the kind of brutal, overwhelming force we're good at creating." Meanwhile, Colonel Sandra Bell was organizing Earth's planetary defenses. Sandra was a tough woman who had grown up in the military. She understood that Earth might face direct attack soon. "Every major city gets missile defense systems," she ordered her staff. "Every orbital platform gets kinetic bombardment weapons. If they want to attack our home world, we'll turn the entire planet into a fortress." The real surprise came from the colonies. On Proxima Centauri B, the alien occupation force thought they were dealing with a normal settlement of peaceful farmers and miners. They were wrong. Tony Garcia had worked in asteroid mines for 15 years before retiring to Proxima. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and hands scarred by decades of dangerous work. When alien ships landed near his farm, Tony was not afraid. He was angry. "Helen, get the neighbors," he told his wife. Helen Murphy Garcia was a former military engineer who had helped build the colony's infrastructure. "Time to show these aliens what happens when you mess with miners." The Proxima colony had been built by people who chose to live on a world where everything tried to kill them. The atmosphere was poison. The weather included acid rain and lightning storms that could melt metal. The local wildlife had teeth longer than human fingers. But humans had turned Proxima into a home anyway. They dug tunnels through solid rock. They built underground cities connected by miles of passages. They knew every cave, every mine shaft, and every hidden route on the entire planet. When alien ground forces tried to occupy the colony, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to appear from nowhere. Humans used mining explosives to collapse tunnels on alien patrols. They turned industrial equipment into weapons that fired chunks of metal at supersonic speeds. Tony Garcia became a legend when he used a mining robot to grab an alien tank and throw it into a deep pit. Helen rigged the colony's power generators to overload and destroy an entire alien base. Their neighbors turned agricultural equipment into instruments of war that the aliens had never imagined. The occupation lasted 3 days before the alien commander requested evacuation. His report to General Zixnall was simple and terrifying. "The humans have turned their entire world into a weapon. Every civilian is a soldier. Every tool is a gun. Every building is a fortress. We cannot hold this position." Similar reports came from every human colony the aliens tried to occupy. Humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like predators defending their territory. They used tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They treated their own deaths as acceptable casualties if they could hurt the enemy. General Zixnal, now commanding from a replacement ship, read the reports with growing horror. In 2 weeks of fighting, he had lost 60 ships and failed to capture a single human world. Worse, the humans were learning from every battle, adapting their tactics and building new weapons. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission from the human admiral." Admiral Phillips appeared on the main screen, sitting calmly in her office on Earth. Behind her, through a window, Zixnal could see human ships being built in orbital factories that worked day and night. "General Zixnal," Phillips said in a voice like ice, "you wanted to see what Deathworlders can do. How do you like the lesson so far?" The transmission ended, and Zixnal stared at the blank screen. For the first time in his long military career, he began to wonder if this war could actually be lost. Outside his ship, human vessels moved through space like hunting packs. They had learned to use alien technology, but they used it in ways that no civilized species would ever consider. They turned mining equipment into siege weapons. They converted cargo ships into suicide bombers. They fought with a joy that terrified their enemies. The galaxy was about to learn why declaring war on Deathworlders never ends well. Admiral Kate Phillips stood in the war room staring at a map of the galaxy. Red dots showed alien positions. Blue dots showed human colonies. For 2 months, the aliens had been attacking the blue dots. Now it was time to attack the red ones. Operation Payback begins today, she announced to her staff. We're done playing defense. Time to take this war to them. Captain Chris Anderson commanded the first human strike force. His fleet consisted of 20 ships that had once been cargo haulers, passenger liners, and mining vessels. Human engineers had spent weeks turning them into weapons of war. Chris was 42 years old with black hair and steady hands that never shook, even in combat. He had been a commercial pilot before the war, flying families to vacation planets. Now he was learning to hunt alien warships through the dark spaces between stars. "Remember," he told his captains over the radio, "we're not trying to conquer territory. We're trying to hurt them so badly they'll think twice about attacking human civilians." His flagship was the converted passenger liner Freedom's Call. The B luxury cruise ship had once carried wealthy tourists to see the rings of Saturn. Now it carried missiles and the kind of men and women who volunteered for suicide missions. The first target was an alien supply depot in the Rigel system. Intelligence. Reports said the base supplied fuel and ammunition to 12 different alien fleets. Destroying it would force the aliens to stretch their resources thin. "Approaching the target," reported Lieutenant Mary Foster from the navigation station. She was 28 years old and had learned to fly spaceships in the asteroid belt, where one mistake meant death. Through the view screen, Chris could see the alien base floating in space like a metal city. Hundreds of supply ships moved between storage tanks and weapon depots. The base looked peaceful and undefended. "Scanning for defenses," called out Sergeant Rick Barnes from the sensor station. Rick had been a police detective before the war. He knew how to spot danger that tried to hide. "Minimal defenses," Rick reported. "Looks like they don't expect attacks this far from human space." "Good," Chris replied. "That's their first mistake." But as the human ships approached, the aliens made their second mistake. Instead of running or calling for help, they sent a message demanding surrender. "Unknown human vessels," the alien commander broadcast. "You are in Confederation space without permission. Surrender immediately or face destruction." Chris laughed out loud. "This is Captain Anderson of the human fleet. We're here to teach you what happens when you murder our families. Consider this your education." The battle lasted 20 minutes. Human ships attacked with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Danny Sullivan, the engineer who had served on the New Horizon, had designed missiles that worked like cluster bombs. Instead of one explosion, they created dozens of smaller blasts that overwhelmed alien defenses. The Freedom's Call used its old passenger loading bays to launch swarms of small attack craft. Each craft carried a single pilot and enough explosives to cripple an alien ship. The pilots were all volunteers who knew they probably would not come home. "This is Jenny Walsh. one pilot radioed as she guided her small craft toward an alien fuel depot. "Tell my kids I love them." Her explosion took out the entire fuel storage complex and 6 alien ships that were too close to escape the blast. When the battle ended, the alien supply base was floating wreckage and burning gas. Chris had lost 4 ships and 37 crew members. But he had destroyed enough alien supplies to support 20 ships for 6 months. Phase 1 complete, he reported to Admiral Phillips, moving to Target 2. The second target was an alien communication relay that connected 12 star systems. Captain Beth Turner commanded the attack ship Vengeance, which had once been a heavy mining platform. Beth was a small woman with blonde hair and eyes like ice. She had lost her husband in the attack on the Liberty Bell. "I want that relay completely destroyed," she told her crew. "Nothing left but space dust." The Vengeance carried a weapon that no civilized species would ever build. Human engineers had taken a faster-than-light drive engine and turned it into a missile. The device could accelerate a ship to light speed and then ram into a target with the force of a small star. "Beth, you know this is a one-way trip," called out her second-in-command, Lieutenant Paul Carter. Paul was Lisa Carter's brother, and he had volunteered for the mission to avenge his sister's death in the first battle at Luna. "I know," Beth replied. "That's what makes it perfect." She activated the modified drive and aimed the Vengeance directly at the alien relay station. The ship accelerated past the speed of light in normal space, which should have been impossible. When it hit the alien station, the explosion created a new star that burned for 3 days. The destruction of the communication relay left 12 alien systems unable to coordinate their defenses. General Zixnall found himself commanding a war where he could not talk to half his forces. On Earth, Dr. Kevin Wright was busy creating weapons that combined human engineering with captured alien technology. Kevin had always been a peaceful man, who preferred to build things rather than destroy them. But war changes people, and Kevin was learning to be very good at destruction. "We've figured out how their energy shields work," he explained to a group of military engineers. "They're designed to stop precise attacks, but if we hit them with enough raw force, the shields collapse." His team had built hybrid weapons that used alien power systems to fire chunks of metal at incredible speeds. The weapons were crude compared to alien energy beams, but they hit much harder. "The aliens fight like surgeons," Kevin continued. "We fight like sledgehammers. Guess which? One wins when you need to break something." Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to Commodore and given command of a new mission. His target was the Confederation's main military academy on Altair Prime. Jake had mixed feelings about the mission. The academy trained young aliens to become officers. Many of the students were barely adults, but Admiral Phillips had been clear about the orders. "They're training the next generation of officers who will attack human colonies," she had told him. "We end this war by making sure there is no next generation." Jake's strike force consisted of 12 ships and 300 volunteers. They called themselves the New Dawn Squadron, and they specialized in precision attacks that left no survivors. The military academy on Altair Prime was a beautiful place. Crystal towers rose from gardens where alien students studied the art of war. Most of them had never seen real combat. They learned about strategy and tactics from books and computer simulations. "Approaching target," reported Commander Lisa Carter. She had survived the Battle of Luna and requested assignment to Jake's squadron. "Defenses are minimal. Looks like they never expected an attack on a school." Jake stared at the academy through his view screen. Somewhere in those towers were young aliens who would grow up to command fleets against human worlds. Some of them were probably good people who just wanted to serve their civilizations. "All ships," he broadcast to his squadron. "Remember what they did to Captain Bennett's family. Remember the colonies they attacked without warning. These students will become the officers who kill human children." The attack was swift and complete. Human ships surrounded the academy and destroyed every building, every ship, and every person on the planet. 3,000 young aliens died in 10 minutes along with their teachers and support staff. When the attack ended, Jake felt sick to his stomach. But he also felt satisfied. The galaxy needed to learn that declaring war on humans meant accepting the consequences. Message sent. "To all Confederation worlds," Lisa reported. "The transmission includes video of the attack and a simple message. This is what happens when you murder human families. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Across the Confederation, alien families began to question whether this war was worth fighting. Their children were dying in military academies. Their supply lines were being cut. Their communication networks were being destroyed. On Viridian Prime, Chancellor Vextar received reports that made his tentacles writhe with fear. The humans were not just fighting back. They were hunting alien forces across the galaxy with a precision and brutality that terrified everyone who heard the stories. "They fight like demons," reported one surviving alien commander. "They laugh when they die. They sing songs while their ships explode. They treat warfare like a game, and they're very good at games." Another commander sent a message that chilled Vextar to his core. "These are not soldiers fighting a war. These are predators hunting prey. They enjoy this. They want us to be afraid." General Zixnal, now commanding from his fourth replacement flagship, stared at tactical displays that showed human forces spreading across the galaxy like a plague. Every day brought new reports of destroyed bases, cut supply lines, and dead alien crews. The humans had learned to use alien technology, but they used it in ways that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They turned merchant ships into bombs. They converted mining equipment into siege weapons. They fought with a creativity that came from millions of years of evolution on a world that tried to kill everything. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving another message from the human admiral." Admiral Phillips appeared on screen, sitting calmly in her office. Behind her, Hugh. Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth's Revenge, and watched 300 human warships prepare for the final battle. 6 months of war had changed everything. The aliens who had once threatened to exterminate humanity now cowered behind the defenses of their homeworld. "Final approach to Viridian Prime," reported Captain Amy Rodriguez from the navigation station. Amy had survived the destruction of the New Horizon and volunteered to serve on the flagship. "Enemy fleet detected. 400 ships in defensive positions around the planet." Kate smiled her cold predator smile. "Only 400? General? Zixnal must be running low on ships." The human fleet had grown during the war as civilian vessels converted to military use, and new ships rolled out of factories that worked around the clock. Each ship carried weapons that combined alien technology with human brutality. They were crewed by people who had volunteered to fight after seeing what the aliens did to peaceful cargo ships. "Admiral," called out Commander Steve Parker from the communications station. Steve had survived the Battle of Luna and become Kate's chief tactical officer. "The alien chancellor is requesting to speak with you." "Put him on screen," Kate ordered. Chancellor Vextar appeared on the main view screen. His purple skin had turned pale, and his golden eyes showed fear that he could not hide. Behind him, the crystal towers of Viridian Prime gleamed in the light of 3 suns. "Admiral Phillips," Vextar said in a voice that shook, "we wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." "The terms are simple," Kate replied. "Unconditional surrender. Your fleets will stand down. Your government will resign. The Confederation will be dissolved." "You cannot seriously expect us to surrender our entire civilization to Deathworlders," Vextar protested. "You declared war on us," Kate reminded him. "You murdered innocent families. You attacked our colonies without warning. You wanted to exterminate our species. Now you face the consequences." "We were protecting the galaxy from your expansion," Vextar argued. Kate laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "You were protecting your own cowardice. You were afraid that humans might be better at survival than you are. Guess what? We are." The transmission ended, and Kate turned to her fleet commanders. "All ships prepare for final assault. If they want to fight to the end, we'll accommodate them." But Chancellor Vextar was not the only alien leader who wanted to avoid complete destruction. General Zixnal had spent 6 months learning to fear human tactics. He knew that his remaining ships could not win against an enemy that treated death as an acceptable cost of victory. "All ships, this is General Zixnal," he broadcast to his fleet. "Do not engage the human forces. Repeat, do not engage. Stand. Down all weapons and prepare to surrender." But not all alien commanders were ready to give up. Admiral Kriegstall, who commanded the Confederation's elite guard, refused to accept defeat. He had spent his entire career believing that alien technology and tactics were superior to anything primitive Deathworlders could develop. "This is Admiral Kriegstall to all loyal Confederation forces," he broadcast on an emergency frequency. I'm taking command of the defense. We will fight these humans to the last ship." 50 alien vessels broke formation and charged toward the human fleet. They were the newest and most advanced ships in the Confederation Navy, crewed by officers who preferred death to surrender. Captain Roy Davis, commanding the assault ship Earth's Fury, met them head-on. Roy was 35 years old with red hair and scars from 3 major battles. He had developed new tactics that even other humans considered extreme. "All ships, this is Davis," he radioed to his squadron. "Let's show them what happens when you fight Deathworlders who are tired of being merciful." The Earth's Fury was equipped with experimental weapons that Dr. Kevin Wright's team had built using captured alien technology. The ship could teleport short distances, appearing next to enemy vessels without warning. Roy teleported directly into the middle of the alien formation and opened fire with weapons that shot chunks of asteroid at near light speed. His first salvo destroyed 3 alien ships before they could react. "Teleporting to Target 2, Roy announced calmly as enemy fire hammered his shields. He vanished and reappeared next to Admiral Kriegstall's flagship. The Earth's Fury was smaller than the alien vessel, but Roy had learned that size did not matter when you were willing to ram your enemies. "This is for Captain Bennett and his family," Roy said as he directed his ship straight into the alien flagship's bridge. The explosion lit up space like a second sun. Roy Davis died with his hands on the controls, taking the alien admiral and 300 enemy crew members with him. The remaining alien ships stopped fighting. Without their commander, facing human tactics that defied all logic, they surrendered, rather than face more ramming attacks. General Zixnall watched his elite guard die and knew the war was truly over. He had lost 400 ships trying to exterminate a species that refused to be exterminated. Worse, he had learned that humans were not just good at war. They enjoyed it. "All ships stand down," he ordered his remaining forces. "Signal unconditional. Surrender to the human fleet." On the surface of Viridian Prime, Chancellor Vextar faced a choice that no alien leader had ever confronted. He could fight to the end and watch his civilization burn, or he could surrender to species he had tried to genocide. The decision was made for him when human landing ships began dropping toward the planet's surface. Colonel Sandra Bell led the first wave of human ground forces. Sandra was a tough woman who had spent the war turning Earth into a fortress. Now she was bringing that expertise to alien worlds. "Remember," she told her Marines as their ships descended through the atmosphere, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to accept surrender, but if anyone wants to keep fighting, accommodate them." The human landing force consisted of 3,000 Marines equipped with weapons that fired explosive projectiles instead of precise energy beams. They moved through the crystal cities of Viridian Prime like a force of nature that could not be stopped. Alien civilians watched from their windows as human soldiers marched through streets designed for peace. The humans looked like creatures from a nightmare world, carrying weapons that could destroy buildings and wearing armor that had been painted with the names of dead friends. Chancellor Vexitar met the human commander in the Great Hall where the war had been declared 6 months earlier. Ambassador Krelthak stood beside him, his crystalline body dim with defeat. "I am Colonel Bell," Sandra announced. "I'm here to accept your formal surrender." "What are your terms?" Vextar asked. "Complete dissolution of the Confederation military, reparations to be paid to human colonies that were attacked. All alien worlds will sign non-aggression treaties with humanity. And one more thing." "What?" Sandra smiled the same cold smile that Admiral Phillips was famous for. "You will help us contact every other species in the galaxy. You're going to tell them exactly what happens when someone declares war on Deathworlders." The surrender ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humans watched alien leaders kneel before human commanders. The message was clear and simple. Earth's children were not to be threatened. Ambassador Krelthak read the formal surrender document in a voice that carried across thousands of worlds. "The Zelkan Confederation formally surrenders to the human Species. We acknowledge that declaring war on Deathworlders was an error that cost us our civilization. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the first joint human-alien exploration mission. His ship, the New Dawn, carried both human crew members and alien scientists who wanted to learn from the species that had defeated them. Course. Laid in for the Andromeda sector, reported Lisa Carter from the pilot station. Unknown space, possible new worlds to explore. Jake nodded and looked out at the stars. The war was over, but its lessons would be remembered for thousands of years. Humanity had not wanted to conquer the galaxy. They had simply wanted to be left alone to explore and build peaceful colonies. But when threatened with extinction, humans had proven they were the most dangerous predators in known space. They fought with creativity, brutality, and joy that terrified their enemies. They treated warfare as both an art and a game, and they were very good at both. "Admiral," called out his communications officer, "we're receiving first contact signals from a new species in the Andromeda sector. Standard peaceful contact protocols," Jake ordered, "but make sure they understand one thing." "What's that, sir?" Jake smiled as he watched alien worlds pass by through his view screen. On every planet, former Confederation species lived under human protection, safer than they had ever been under their own governments. "Make sure they know that we prefer peace," Jake said. "But if they want war, they should ask the Confederation how that worked out." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth's children were explorers and builders by choice. But when forced to fight, they became something much more dangerous. They became human. And that was why declaring war on Deathworlders never ends well.